Alfa Romeo is one of the biggest names in the world of motorsport. They were in Formula One in the 1950s, went away, took a long sabbatical, came back to the sport in 2018 and teamed up with the Sauber Formula One team, creating Alfa Romeo Sauber F1 team. I know, pretty unique, right? In 2019, they increased their partnership by taking over from the name Sauber to create Alfa Romeo F1 team, returning to as a proper full manufacturing team after almost 50 years away from the sport. But that's all set to change. Well, what the Italian media are claiming anyway. Now, that's one key thing I've got to mention in this episode, that it's from an Italian source. So please don't, immediately think that Alfa Romeo are going to leave. It's from an Italian source, so anything could be possible with this one. But basically, what they're claiming is that Alfa Romeo, the car manufacturer, aren't satisfied enough with the results from the Formula One team, and therefore are considering to pull out from the sport after 2020. Now, this isn't the first time that we have heard anything where a team is considering leaving, not just Formula One, but after 2020, because the new regulations come in. A lot of people they aren't agreeing to the new terms. There's just Formula One at the moment is in a bit of a mess, you could say. It's not going everyone's way, really. Some people are thinking, oh, well, I want this rule, but I don't want this. And other teams are saying, I don't want this rule, but I want this. And Alfa Romeo really aren't satisfied with the way maybe the sport's going, but maybe themselves as a whole. Now, one of the main reasons why Alfa Romeo came into the sport again as a full manufacturer and as a title sponsor to Sauber in 2018 was to increase their production in their cars' sales. Now, since then, it hasn't really been going that well, has it, for the car manufacturer Alfa Romeo? Sales are down, it's not really going too well, and they had tried to go into Formula One to try and increase the business, and that's not good. It isn't good. So again, that's one of the factors why they are considering to pull out of the sport. But do we think it will actually happen? Well, Alfa Romeo aren't really the only team to be considering leaving the sport. Renault are reportedly rumoured to be leaving as well. So really, the debate today is just like, do we want to see both these teams leave? Alfa Romeo, the names leave rather, Alfa Romeo and Renault themselves. Do we think it will happen? And maybe who will actually come in to replace these? Lyle, it's a bit of a shock kind of statement in a way. Well, reports anyway, nothing official as of yet. But I mean, what's your initial first reactions to hearing that Alfa Romeo could potentially pull away from Formula One?
Well, I mean, I like them as a team. I think they're really good. I'd say that it's better to have Alfa Romeo in than Sauber. When Sauber, I mean, when we came into Formula One, it was kind of questionable, like, what Sauber actually were, where they were from, what they were doing. They were a Swiss team, and ran by obviously Peter Sauber, and it was, I didn't really know what direction they were heading into. It was like, were they a midfield team, were they a strong team, were they a front team? Did they have the history in the sport? I think they've been going since around 95, mid 90s, something like that. I wasn't really too keen on the team. But when they changed to Alfa Romeo, they changed the livery from, I mean, let's be fair, they've been through loads of liveries. They had the black and gold with like Marcus Ericsson type, see, back in the olden days as well with Petronas. Then obviously they had like just a plane. They were sponsored by Chelsea, or rather they sponsored Chelsea Football Club. So it was quite hit and miss for them. But then they came in with the nice white and red livery. Obviously it was Sauber Alfa Romeo, then eventually Alfa Romeo, and then stood for now this year, which we're seeing Alfa Romeo. A long Italian car manufacturer that have been in Formula One before. And the drivers that they've had, obviously, in those two times, obviously with the two drivers last year, and Ericsson and Leclerc, and then obviously this year with Giovinazzi and Raikkonen, being a great pairing. It's just been a new team, Jordan, and they have come out of Sauber's back pockets. The base is still in Switzerland, but their Italian team, the Fiat, they have the history, they have the pedigree in Formula One, and I would say that they are so much different to what they were a few years ago with Sauber. So for example, like with Sauber was, Kobayashi and Perez, let's use them as an example in 2012. Good team, but midfield team just seemed more like just a hanger-on kind of team. Didn't really know where they were from, where they were going. But now, Giovinazzi and Raikkonen, they're driving with passion. It's a passionate team. I remember when Giovinazzi got points in Monza and Alfa Romeo were getting celebrated. They were an Italian team, as well as obviously Giovinazzi is an Italian driver, and they had something about them in Formula One again. So I would say that they've changed leaps and bounds from even just one simple thing, which is changing their name. I love him in the sport. I really, really do. It's been a great home for Raikkonen. And if they were to leave the sport, I would be upset. I mean, if anything, any changes in Formula One are upsetting. But there's so many rumours nowadays, you don't know where to follow. As John said there, obviously it's Alfa Romeo now. It's Renault, they might possibly be leaving. Toro Rosso, now they're a strange one. Where are they going? Are they going to leave? Are they going to change the name? There's been talks about them changing the name to get away from the from the Red Bull brand. So we don't know what's happening with anything. Remember, Mercedes, they were even rumoured to be leaving for Formula E indefinitely at one point. So it's all these rumours, it's all these, we don't know what's going on. So at the moment, don't really know what to believe, Jordan. But again, I just can't imagine it being such a good team like Alfa Romeo. I think at the moment we have a great pair, and maybe a few years ago when they were Sauber, fair enough, but not at the moment. And just one last thing, you said obviously about the car manufacturers to help Alfa Romeo, the brand in Italy. I'd say that would work. Lotus did that. Obviously, they have their road cars. Lotus also cater them as well with their sporty kit cars, whatever. That didn't really work too well. I'd say Alfa Romeo, though, a good brand. It'll go in their own direction, a bit like Mercedes. I wouldn't really say you'd buy one for the Formula One team. But yeah, just on a whole, I love the team. I really do, and I'd be upset if they left. But the news, when I first heard it, I was like, nah, not really, because you hear all these rumours, Jordan, and you can't really say that that's going to happen, yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing official, by the way. So obviously, don't read into this too much. It's just I just thought, well, it's worth talking about because Alfa Romeo. We haven't really spoke about them. It's really been we have spoken about Ferrari a lot recently. Not so much Alfa Romeo. I think we need to start giving the midfield teams a bit of attention.
Also, John was saying about Ferrari, it's the second Italian team. Like I was saying with Italy and Giovinazzi,
exactly.
Great pairing because it was an Italian team and an Italian driver. And it's something that's overlooked. So when you're looking at Leclerc and Ferrari, maybe you should be looking at, let's say, Raikkonen, an ex-Ferrari driver, or Giovinazzi, the Ferrari junior driver, and obviously coming through with a Ferrari engine in the ranks, and Alfa Romeo, which are an Italian team. Well, I mean, they're still in Switzerland, but now they've changed from just a Swiss middle-of-the-road team to an Italian, still middle-of-the-road, obviously, but, more of a fire, more of the history, more of the pedigree. I'd say, Jordan, they've changed so much, even just in changing one part of their thing, which is changing the name.
Yeah, I mean Sauber themselves, they are still around. They are still a business. Like they haven't just like all of a sudden disappeared. Because when Alfa Romeo took over like the reins, if you like, of Sauber, all they did was just change the name of the company. That's all they did. Sauber are still around because they have the Sauber Junior program, which I don't know if you know, but Arthur Leclerc races in there. Charles Leclerc's brother. He races in Formula 4 under the Sauber Junior team. So really, it's like, think of it as this way, as weird, right? But stay with us on this one, guys, because I do have a bit weird thing of like getting my head around things.
Oh, we know that.
So really, you have like a wall, right? You've got wallpaper here, right? And that's Sauber, the wallpaper here. So all they've done really is just wallpapered over it. The wallpaper's still there, but there's just a fresh face. And then I know when you take off both. And the old wallpaper, the paper behind is going to come off it as well. I know, but like that's like my perfect analogy of trying to. I'll get my words out eventually about trying to explain it how it was. But and also as well, if you flash your mind back to 2017, Sauber were the worst team on the grid, absolutely the worst team on the grid in 2017. Back of the field all the time. Manor had just dropped out of the sport. Caterham were no more. And Sauber they looked, I mean, 2015 was a good year for them, Ericsson and Nasser in the car. 2014 was awful, 2015 was brilliant, 2016 was average, but that was only because, like, Manor were there, and I think Manor made them look better than what they were in 2016. So when Manor pulled out, really everyone kind of expected Sauber to be the back of the field team.
Because they had their line. Someone's left, so now I'm going to be the worst one. Everyone should just keep leaving Formula One until there's only two teams left, Ferrari and Mercedes. Exactly. Because Mercedes are better than Ferrari, everyone will think, oh, Ferrari's a terrible team.
Exactly. So it actually could work out like that. So they had Ericsson, they had Verline, they were at the back of the field. It was just boring. And then at the time, they had Manisha Kaltenborn, the former team principal of Sauber. She was in charge at the time. And then I remember making this topic I'm doing this video where they announced that an engine deal with Honda. Now, at the time, that was a big laughingstock. Well, in a way, because Honda at the time were terrible, kind of. McLaren's fault in a way, maybe. But Honda were just breaking down all the time with McLaren. They tarnished their reputation in Formula One. It was terrible. So then when they announced the deal, it was to like kind of, and at the time, by the way, they had a Ferrari engine. So it was almost to remove themselves from Ferrari, go off to Honda, and it was supposed to be a very good deal. I think it was a works deal. Apparently, it was a very, very, very good deal that they had going with Honda. But then Kaltenborn stepped down. Then Frederick Vasseur came in and straight away scrapped the Honda deal, went back to Ferrari, and then in 2018 he got the whole Alfa Romeo deal through. And he's kind of been held as a hero over there. He's transformed Sauber or Alfa Romeo from a team at the back to like challenging the midfield. And I mean, the second half of the season hasn't been too well, hasn't been too good, but they have shown signs of improvement, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a really good driver lineup as well. So it could be worse. It could be a lot worse. But let's say Alfa Romeo do pull out of the sport. Sauber the name will probably return to the team. And then the chances are, well, the rumour is that Sauber are having talks with Honda to power their cars for the future, should Alfa Romeo pull out, if the rumours are true. Now, what the sources are saying is, by the way, this is the article from Planet F1, no credit for us, and the article said something like about how Sauber were trying to get a deal with Honda, but apparently it's not going to be as a good of a deal as it was back in 2017 when they first agreed it. So Sauber are like, so really Honda are just like, oh, so you're back, tail firmly between the legs. The deal didn't work out for you? Okay, right. Yes, we'll have a deal, but I want this, and I want this, and I want this. So they're being, not so much being awkward, but they're like, yeah, they've got them by the nads, really. But apparently Sauber aren't too happy with the fact that they are like Ferrari's satellite team as well. That's another thing that they were saying. That the fact that they are like Ferrari's feeder team, they want to be their own independent team again. They want to go back to the old days. So that's what they're trying to do. Whether that's good for them or not. I mean, Honda, don't get me wrong, they've been doing so well in 2017, 2019 rather. But is it good for Sauber? Or for the team moving forward? Who knows? I mean, who knows? I mean, Honda might get it right in 2021 and then ace it. In 2020, who knows? They might have a dodgy engine or whatever for the Red Bull. In 2021, they might go worse. They might get better. I mean, who knows? So, Lyle, let's say if Sauber do go back to their original name and go with Honda, do you think that's a good idea for them, or do you think that, well, it's their only option really if they want to be more independent, is what the Sauber franchise are claiming?
Probably, yeah. Probably. I mean, obviously, no one's really at Honda's door, especially after the McLaren days. But the one thing that the Red Bull had this year is reliability, and that's what's being claimed. Toro Rosso, great reliability, good results, great reliability from Red Bull, especially over when they had Renault. And obviously they're getting the results as well, especially more in this first half of the season, but quite consistent still in the second half of the season. If Sauber, who, when the name drops out, if Alfa Romeo left, the guys who've been in that team for, two years, really pulling them forward from, as you were saying, a back market team and what was always known as a back market team, take out a few good years, in the mid-2000s, 2011, 2012, and they were always a back market team, and they went with Honda, it might be a good look up for them. When they did that deal, as you were just saying there, with Manisha Kaltenborn, it was looking like a stupid decision because Honda was with McLaren and they'd ruined their reputation with them. Someone had to bite the bullet. It was Toro Rosso. So, Sauber didn't have to do it at that point. But my opinion is, if you stayed with Ferrari and used a Ferrari engine, obviously there's other teams on the grid that use them. There will be a feeder to the team. They will still have their Italian link. And I think it's important to just kind of remember, do they still want to be, kind of an Italian team? At the moment, Alfa Romeo, Italian car make, Ferrari, Italian team, especially with Antonio Giovinazzi, and who is Italian, ex-Ferrari driver Kimi Raikkonen. So they have Ferrari written all over them, and they've even got red in the livery. So if they left and Sauber came back, who were a Swiss team, not far from Italy, don't know why that makes a difference, do they still want to be Italian? If that's yes, stay with Ferrari. If that's no, look elsewhere. I don't think they'll be able to get anything with Mercedes. If they went to Honda,
no.
I mean, that's a thing. Start from scratch, blank canvas. There's nothing... There's no way to have foresight to say we're going to have a good season or we're going to have a bad season with Honda. We're going to have to bite the bullet, a bit like what Toro Rosso did in 2018. Because remember that, they were just completely in the dark, Toro Rosso. It paid off for them, and it was still in the dark for Red Bull. That's working out for them. Obviously, you still remember we've got 4 rounds left. That's working out for them. But next year and onwards, it's still a gamble. I mean, the Mercedes engine could be bad for Mercedes next year. We don't know, but with Honda, it's a big gamble. But it's definitely changed from 2017 when obviously that deal was going to happen. But yeah, it depends if they want to stay with Ferrari. It depends if they want to stay being Italian. It depends how how Alfa Romeo actually do leave the sport. If it's quite a bad breakup, if they leave with bad intentions, that Alfa pack up and go, we don't we can't just be a midfield team. We need to be at the front. We're going to look at another formula. We're going to look at another type of racing. They might think we're not going to go with Ferrari anymore. It reminds us too much of Alfa Romeo. Or are they going to think, well, it's set a great foundation and we're going to stay with Ferrari and press on. Obviously, they used to be there before, and they might like the Ferrari Junior side. They might like the Ferrari Junior aspect of them.
Yeah.
Because obviously, look at Haas, for example. They're not really a Ferrari Junior team. They use a Ferrari engine, and that's one of their hopes. For example, with Romain Grosjean, he's always said that he drives at Haas with the idea that he's going to drive for Ferrari at one point. Also, Esteban Gutierrez back in 2016, he was the Ferrari Junior driver, of which he was beforehand and then afterwards. He drove for Haas in the intention that with the using Ferrari engines, he was going to then drive for Ferrari in the future. So again, Sauber or Alfa Romeo might like the idea. Sauber might like the idea of having a junior team because, that being said, Ferrari Junior program, they might get in people from Prima, like Mick Schumacher, for example. I mean, if Sauber could get Mick into the team, the hottest. That sounds weird. The most the most talked about the hottest driver in F2, the one that everyone wants them to drive for. If Sauber can snatch him up before Haas do or whoever else, then that would work really well for them. I think it's a big gamble.
So let's say for example Alfa Romeo do pull away from the sport. Does that allow Haas to be Ferrari's B team? That pretty much confirms it, doesn't it?
Yes. If Sauber don't go with a Ferrari engine, but the thing is though, I mean, at the moment with Haas, Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean, there's nothing written down that they're going to go to Haas in the future. All the talk is Sebastian Vettel, was he going to stay? Charles Leclerc, of course he's going to stay. Mick Schumacher getting through the ranks. But there's always one spare seat and there's always a room, there's always a little kind of margin of talking. And one driver that I always feel is in that talk, and he's always in that talk, is Sergio Perez. I always feel like he's always talked about to be in Ferrari. Not prevalently, but he's always there. He's kind of there when no one else is. Nico Hulkenberg, but obviously that ship has long sailed.
That ship set sail and it's arrived at its next destination.
I'm sorry to say, but Nico Hulkenberg's on the Titanic. That's what he's on. But yes. So, but Romain Grosjean, it has been said that he might drive for Ferrari. That would be a great thing, and Gunter Steiner would love that, especially if you've listened to his Friday Grid. If you've listened to his what's it called?
Grill the Grid.
Beyond the Grid.
No, Beyond the Grid.
If you listen to his Beyond the Grid, then he said that he wants the best for Haas, and obviously how far they've come has been ridiculous. If he could get that for that team, it would be amazing to be a Ferrari Junior team. But I'm just thinking though, if Alfa Romeo did drop out, Jordan, I think Sauber would love that name. Do you think Sauber would kind of think, okay, Alfa's left, we're kind of picking up the pieces from what was an Italian team, and now we are using a Ferrari engine, and we're hoping to be a Ferrari Junior team because, let's just use Mick Schumacher for example. Prima racing, hopefully getting into Ferrari one day, but obviously the 2 seats are taken at the moment by Sebastian Vettel, who possibly has a year, maybe 2 left, but Charles Leclerc, who's most likely going to be his teammate. Maybe he gets the option to go to either Haas, who are a Ferrari B team, or another team that's a Ferrari team. Either we have none left, so he has to go to Haas, or he goes to Sauber, who are using a Ferrari engine, a Ferrari C team, if you like, or a Ferrari Junior team, sister team, and then he can use that team, work with them, obviously bring them a lot more fame as well, and hopefully get to Ferrari in the future. So do you think Sauber would like that, or do you think they would want to go in another direction where they wouldn't want to be a sister team, they wouldn't want to be a junior team, and if they went with Honda, they'd be their own independent team, back like what they were, a few years ago, obviously before Alfa Romeo came in.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're wanting, isn't it? Like I said before, they don't want to be the Ferrari like kind of B team in a way, or the satellite team is what they're claiming as well, as what the reports are claiming anyway. So like if they do stick around for a while, for a bit longer, and let's say these rumours are completely false, which there might be, chances are they are, but you never know with F1. So, and if they do stick around beyond 2021, I can guarantee Mick Schumacher will be in an Alfa Romeo. He will be. If they do pull out and Honda do go with Sauber, definitely he'll be in that Haas.
Yeah.
Because of the Ferrari deal, the Ferrari connections. Because K-Mag and Grosjean, they've only got a contract for 2020 and that's it. If Alfa Romeo do pull out, I can guarantee that those two will be gone.
Yeah.
Mick Schumacher will come in there. Maybe Robert Schwartzman, maybe Deruvaler or Sean Gelael. I highly doubt Sean Gelael, but he's part of that program, isn't he? So one of both them drivers might be in that team. They might bring over Perez from Racing Point. Hulkenberg might come back into the sport for a couple of years.
I'm sick of the hate word now. He's going to go. He's going to leave. I'm sorry, just get him out. Oh God,
get him out as well. So I think I think Sauber will. I think they do want to be. If the deal does pull away, then Ferrari will certainly go away from them.
Yeah.
And then Sauber will end up getting the Honda deal, and who knows? Maybe Honda might come back into the sport that way. But like they said, it isn't that kind of deal. But what obviously touching on just before about Nico Hulkenberg, not so much about him, but the Renault guys themselves. Now Renault, they're reportedly rumored to be leaving the sport in 2021. After 2020. I mean. This team was formerly Renault, then Benetton, now back to Renault, left the sport, back to the sport, Lotus, Renault, now they're leaving. What? Make your minds up. I mean, Lyle, what's your... Renault possibly leaving the sport? I mean, there's no one else to replace them in a way. I know Campos is rumoured, but, I mean, the engines aren't as good as what people want them to be. In 2021, there's going to be no customer teams apart from Renault themselves, unless someone strikes up a miraculous deal out of the blue or a new team comes in. It's not looking good for Renault. So how likely and will it be that they will leave the sport in 2021? And if so, will there be a big miss to the paddock?
The chances of them leaving is very high, very, 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 very high.
Ooh,
Basically,
wow.
when they left Formula One after Fernando Alonso won, they left not just because of Spygate and Flavio Briatore, but that was done damage to the team. And after that, the team were kind of left in they had a bad reputation. The years that Fernando Alonso had won with the team, a bit like what, for example, John's wearing the shirt, they left on bad intentions, and it wasn't the send-off that Renault needed. So when they left, the idea was that we're going to have a few years out, that we're going to work with Red Bull, who were their primary focus at this point, obviously with Red Bull Racing Renault, with the engines. It was perfect, that was amazing. That was the only thing that brought them back into Formula One. If Red Bull bombed out, or the Renault engines bombed out, I don't know how they would, but if they did that, and obviously Renault was supplying more teams back then as well, if they didn't have a great season with Red Bull, they might not have come back, but they had an amazing season with Red Bull. Amazing seasons, as I should say. Amazing with them in the V8 era. 2015, planning, and I remember then obviously they came back in, with that bright orange livery, Julian Palmer, K-Mag. It was the team that were going to come back in, that were going to revolutionise, driving they were going to revolutionise racing in France and bring back that massive name. And since then, it just hasn't worked. All the money that you can chuck at Renault doesn't help. All the drivers that you can chuck at Renault, for example, like obviously they've had Nico Hulkenberg for a few seasons now. They had who was last year, Carlos Sainz. And then they had, obviously, this year now they've got Daniel Ricciardo, massive name in Formula One, massive name in Renault. But it doesn't matter what you have, they're just not having the season. They're not getting the results on that car, the engine. It's a little bit reliability, but it's just, what is going on. Also, on the other side of the spectrum, last year with Red Bull, the engine was terrible. Renault are just, the name is again, it's hit and miss. It's not at the top, and that's where they need to be. A little bit like Honda. So Honda were thinking about leaving when they were with McLaren, packing up the bags and saying, right, that's it. We need to get out of Formula. We need to get our engines out of Formula One. We need to get our name out of Formula One. Yeah. Renault need to be at the top. They're not at the top, and they're not going to be. The team that the team that always kind of, it's weird. It's really, really weird because every week they're always saying we have a sniff of P4. We have a sniff of the podium places in qualifying. We have a sniff of the podium positions in the race. Daniel Ricciardo's going to get on the podium. Nico Hulkenberg's finally going to surprise us all and get on the podium. Maybe that one's dying out a little bit. But Renault always have that kind of very masked kind of thought about them. For example, actually in the Mexican Grand Prix preview, I actually said that I have a feeling that Renault are going to do quite well here. Again, I said don't ask me then. Please don't ask me now because I don't know. I'm just a feeling. So yes. Anyway, so if they don't have a good season, which they're not, that's obviously going to hinder their performance. Next year with Esteban Ocon as well, if they don't have a good season, and they're a big team, they're a multinational car manufacturer in Enstone in Paris as well, and if they don't get the results, then they're going to pack their bags and leave. And yeah, I just, switching over from Alfa Romeo, who aren't a good team, they're at the back or they're near the back, I'd be shocked if they left. But Renault, the team that are in the middle of the grid, getting good performances and holding really Formula One. Obviously, they have a big pillar in the world of Formula One. I wouldn't be surprised if they left. And in terms of who would replace them, I mean, Formula One probably could look at another car brand. Obviously, we've discussed that before. Maserati, Audi, Aston Martin. Well, Aston Martin, Red Bull, but Aston Martin as a whole. Porsche coming over from obviously their big name in the WEC. We've talked about that before. Maybe Formula One would look at something like that. Maybe the return of someone else like Ford or Jaguar, I guess. Maybe a rendition of what used to be with before they became Red Bull, something like that. But Renault, it would be a big miss, and it's a bad comeback if they do leave without getting any results. But I could see them leaving, Jordan. I mean, their comeback, I know we say comeback, they've been in for a few years now since obviously they returned back to the sport, but it hasn't been what they've wanted, has it? By anybody, especially by Nico Hülkenberg, who's kind of been trapped in that team. The last chance saloon for that guy, obviously, who came over from Force India. So where are they heading? And yes, do you actually think they will leave? Because in my opinion, I actually do see them leaving. And if they were standing at the back, if they were standing, after a race weekend, bye, see you later, au revoir, I would be saying, see you later as well, because I couldn't see them staying in. Do you think that Renault would leave as well?
I think Renault. I think certainly they'll be looking at the numbers in terms of financial. Putting money into Formula One. Is it beneficial for them? Are they losing money or what? Because I think Renault will be putting a lot of money in investment into their team because Renault are a very successful car manufacturer themselves. There are a very successful Formula One team. They've won 2 world championships, both drivers and constructors. They've also won constructors and drivers championships with engine as an engine supplier as well. So they have a very successful heritage in Formula One. But this time around, it's proven not to be that successful because I think that obviously rejoined in 2016. 17 was like an average year. 18 was a good year. It was a very good improvement year. Finished in 4th place, had a good solid year. 2019 was supposed to be that big year. Ricciardo had signed from Red Bull to Renault. It was supposed to be written in the stars. Renault was supposed to be challenging the top 4. And they haven't. They haven't even been. They've been close on 1 or 2 occasions this season, but nowhere near where they want to be. I mean, McLaren, their Renault's partner, if you like, one of their customer teams, are way ahead of them in the standings, and even worse so because as we're recording this, I think it was announced yesterday that the Renault had been disqualified from the Japanese Grand Prix because of I think it was the braking assistant that they had on their car.
Yeah.
So and then Renault aren't going to protest their results. So now I think they've lost 9 points from that weekend. So now they're even further behind in the standings. So that could influence Renault leaving the sport themselves. But I personally think Renault will leave. I do think it. They might look at the results and what the future holds in Formula One. They might not agree with it. They might. Is Formula One really for us? Like I said, they'll look at the numbers. Formula E is probably more financially stable than Formula One at this present time. And even with the new cost cap thing and everything like that, they might not agree to that. They don't want to be a part of it, or they might agree to it, but it might not be put in place, and they might go, well, what's the point? The other teams are going to be just going to outspend us.
Do you think that Formula E is actually what they'd want to do, Jordan?
Well,
we say Formula E is probably one of their only options, but would they want to do that? Because Renault, they've only really shown interest in Formula One. Obviously, there's other formulas to go into. If they had feeder teams, then fair enough, you might think about, where else could they go. But they've only really been interested in Formula One. Obviously, they've also got Formula Renault as well. But they could venture in. I don't know how that one works. But Formula One isn't that their only option, or just to leave the sport and leave more racing and go back to the cars?
In terms of single seater, I think they will concentrate more on Formula E because they have got their own team, I believe. Renault Edams, I think it is. They're one of the leading manufacturers behind electrical energy, like the road cars.
Yeah.
A lot of them are hybrids all of them are more or less hybrids, the new cars. most of them are going to like electrical as well. And of course, the future is electric, as the saying goes. So certainly their concentration will be more on Formula E, unless Formula One decides to go even more electric, which I don't know. I really don't. I doubt it, but I don't know. But
Sebastian Vettel wouldn't want that. Quieter engines, he
no,
wouldn't be up for that.
no, exactly. But like, certainly, if they do pull out of Formula One, then Formula E is certainly the way to go for them. They will just invest more into that. A bit like BMW were. They were considering to come back into Formula One. They didn't. They're in Formula E now. Porsche, their first season in Formula E is the season coming up. Mercedes, they've now split the bill between Formula E and Formula One. And I'm sorry, but if Mercedes feel like they've had enough of Formula One, they can leave and go back to and just go into Formula E and invest into that, because Formula E is the future. It's getting more and more popular. It's attracting some big names in the car manufacturing world, and Formula One at the moment it's slowly dragging behind. I hope that with these new rules that we can push forward and get Formula One back to where it needs to be. But we're getting off topic a bit in a way. Obviously talking about Renault for a bit first. But yeah, certainly they will be looking into Formula E more so. But I do,
Yeah.
I hope that they don't leave. I hope that they are here to stay, because not only are they a very historical team in Formula One, it also adds up the numbers. So let's say if, well, I don't know, let's say if Alfa Romeo like do decide to walk away, and so does Sauber altogether, that they decide, okay, F1's not us anymore, then that's 9 teams. Then if Renault leave, that's 8 teams on the grid. That's what, 16 cars. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible for Formula One.
That would
It
be
would be
terrible.
boring. I mean, all right, it might be some races might be okay, but 16 cars on the grid, no. 20 at least, maybe more, hopefully more, that we do get some in the future. But of course, as always, let us know your opinions in the comment section below. And I'm going to say this once, I'm going to say this again. I know I've said this a lot, but this is our first debate show over 1,000 subscribers. Brilliant.
Wow.
Incredible. I mean, we've said it a lot, but we'll say it again in the debate show. Thank you so much for getting us to 1,000. Let's see where else we could go. So, but yes, just like I said, post your comments, your opinions in the comment section below. Go and follow us on our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, at F1_day16. You'll be able to see our links below, our Instagram as well. We might post sometimes on there on Instagram, but it's mostly Twitter as well. Get joined in with the banter. And of course, we are doing a Q&A about obviously our 1,000 subscribers special. If you would like to leave a question, then please leave it down below in the comment section, or go and DM us on Twitter, and then we'll probably consider it. Whether we get loads or whether we get none, which we might get none. Now we'll get at least some, but I mean, if we do get loads, then we'll probably have to like kind of drop out a couple of questions. But leave your questions, and yes, thank you so much for joining us as well. Check out our rest of the videos for the rest of the weekend. Mexican Grand Prix review coming out. Lyle will be your host for that, and then on Tuesday, hopefully one of our a very big episode. It's a popular series so far. F1 YouTube is Decoded. We've done an interview with Chazza HD. Next up is Old Ass. Can't wait for that one. Very excited to see how you guys react to that. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.